Hello and welcome to the PaynePoints Podcast. We want to tell the stories of people, their businesses, and the journey that they are on. Our purpose is to gather a new perspective on starting, growing, maturing, and maintaining businesses of all sizes. So grab that cup of coffee, sit back, and join us as we start this conversation. Hey guys, welcome back to another episode. I am Sarah Harbuck, your host, and with me is Kristin Ellis.
Good morning.
And our guest today is TJ Martinez of Martinez Martial Arts. Hello, TJ.
Hey, how are you guys?
Good.
Good.
So thanks for coming in and taking some time to talk with us this morning.
Definitely. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, so why don't you tell everybody a little bit about yourself?
Okay, my name is TJ Martinez. I am a 6th degree black belt. I have a title of master instructor. No, I'm way too laid back. No. I have a title of master instructor in Taekwondo, and that's for teaching and everything. And I own a martial arts school in Nacogdoches, Texas.
Awesome. Right. And you've got a few kids, and they take
I do.
with you?
I do. I have 3 kiddos, 6, 5, and 3.
Wow.
Charlie, Abram, and Ollie. Those are my heart right there.
That's so cute to see pictures of them too, doing their little thing.
Yeah.
So you have been in the martial arts world for a long time, obviously, if you're a
Right.
6th degree black belt.
Yeah.
You actually worked with Master Alford here in Lufkin for a long time, correct?
I did. I started martial arts when I was 9 years old, under Master Alford.
Oh,
and
wow.
so I've been in 27 years now, and he was my very first instructor. He passed away about 5 years ago.
Yeah.
And but he was my instructor all the way through, where, I mean, he became more than a father figure,
Yeah.
a business
Yeah.
mentor. He became a little bit of everything.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
So
My own dad passed away when I was 16, and so he took over that role. And actually, accumulative wise, he was actually in my life as a father figure longer than my dad was. So
Yeah.
he meant a lot to me.
So was that kind of a catalyst for you to kind of continue that legacy when he passed away?
It was. Whenever he passed away, I was still teaching and working at the school in Lufkin.
Mm-hmm.
And then after about a year and a half, I had the opportunity to buy the school that I own now, and so I had to go for it.
Yeah,
Actually, a few years before he passed away, I actually asked the woman would she be interested in selling the school, and she said she was pregnant, and she's like, well, this is the only job I can have where I can work while pregnant and this, that. And I said, I respect that.
Yeah.
And so, and she called me about a year after Master Alford passed away and said, hey, how do you go about selling a school? And I was like, maybe she's trying to tell me something. So I was like, I think I might know a guy that's interested. And she was like, I was hoping it was you.
Yeah.
And so, we just went from
sort
there.
of serendipitous in a way.
Yeah.
It
That's
was.
great.
It was Sarah Ellis. That was her name, and I owe everything to her right now.
Oh,
that's awesome.
She had a really small club, and when I took over, we had ups and downs number wise, and then we actually able to just explode right now.
That's fantastic.
Well, I want to kind of go back just a little bit. You said you started martial arts when you were 9 years old. What was it? Just something to do when you were a kid instead of like soccer or football, or was it like, oh my goodness, was there something that inspired you?
I was the least athletic kid. I was the guy that
I feel you right here. Yeah.
I was always the smallest. I was always the littlest in every aspect of the word. I was shy. We'd go visit family, and I would cry because I didn't want to go see them, and then I didn't want to leave, and it was just I was super emotional. I grew out of that, but it was I was super emotional as a kid, very shy. One of my really good friends, Aaron, lived down the road from me, and to get to his house, there was a house that had always had some teenage kids in the front yard. Mm-hmm. And I was so afraid to go down there.
Go past them. Yeah.
And they would have never had said anything to me. Nobody would have done anything. But I was always like, Dad, will you drive me? He's like, I'm not going to waste gas to go, a tenth of a mile down the road.
Right.
You can walk. And I was like, no, I don't want to. And so we got a flyer on the windshield one day. And my mom was like, I think one of the words was confidence, and my mom was like, "You're gonna go.
You need this."
Yep. And I mean, the very first day I walked on. I don't know if you guys know too much about martial arts, but I walked onto the floor. I still had my shoes on. I was so nervous, and then I was always been like a flexible kid, and they were like, all right, first thing we gotta do is go down the splits, and I was able to do that, and they were like, wow, look at this new kid, and he's able to do the splits. So ever since then I was like, wow, I think I'm good at karate.
Yeah.
And so it kind of just stuck in my
That
head.
instant spark.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. That's really awesome.
That's awesome. I've heard a lot of people say that martial arts, karate especially, but any of them really will instill that confidence.
Right.
And it's more of a esteem building exercise
Yeah.
than it is it
Yeah.
can be a self-defense,
Yeah.
but it's more of a let's build people's esteem and really work on the self.
Yeah.
know.
When you tie your belt, there's symbolism to that to keep the both sides even. One side's physical and one side's mental. So
Okay.
it's to keep both parts there. And, one thing I teach kids is, we teach self-esteem, discipline, respect, confidence. And I tell all the parents, other life skills that you guys want as parents and we want as parents that we're able to instill with that, because I teach the yes sir, no sir. We teach all of that. And, the hardest part isn't the kids. It's always the parents that, oh, we don't make them say that at home. It's like, well, that's why he's getting D's at school right now. Help me, help
Teach
you.
respect.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So what all there are different types of martial arts.
Right.
Would you list the ones that you teach at your school?
Well, our main focus is Taekwondo, and with an emphasis of fitness and self-defense. Colloquially, Taekwondo is hard to say and spell, and people don't know what that is, but they know what karate is.
Right.
So I call it karate all the time. So
Yeah.
I was like, hey,
Yeah.
come on, we got to do karate today or whatever it is. And then everybody's like, all right, karate.
Yeah.
But it's Taekwondo. Taekwondo has an emphasis on kicks because
Okay.
it originated in Korea where there was a lot of warlords and things like that riding on horses, and they couldn't do anything, so they actually had to kick these guys off of horses, and that's kind of where our kicks
Where
come
it
from.
came from. That's
Interesting.
cool.
I did not
Yeah,
know that
that's
little
nice
tidbit
to
of
know.
history.
Yeah.
See, I grew up in the era of the 80s where Karate Kid was the,
Right. Yes.
epitome of martial
yeah.
arts movies.
Oh yeah, I was really sad when I found out that crane kick wasn't a real thing.
Yeah, it's
you know?
apparently an illegal move.
Yeah.
And there's much controversy in
I
the
didn't know
Karate
that.
Kid
I
world
hadn't heard that
Daniel did not actually technically win the
Yeah, he
tournament.
kicked him in the head.
And that is not a good thing.
That was an
so,
illegal technique.
have you noticed since the new Cobra Kai show has come out, has there been like a resurgence of interest in Taekwondo karate or no?
Not necessarily, because that's not geared towards kids, and
Yeah.
Okay.
it's
Well,
mainly-
yeah, I guess it is more
more-
of a nostalgia
yeah.
thing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's really geared towards the adults and stuff, and we a lot of martial arts schools will go and try to capitalize on any kind of like a Power Ranger movie, Kung Fu Panda.
Sure.
They
Right.
want to do demos at movie theaters and stuff, and I always thought that was corny, so I would never do that. And so, but I had saw whenever that came out, I was like, that's a lot more geared towards my teaching style.
Yeah.
So I was like, how can I kind of go there? And I was like, I don't think I want that out there like that, where it makes it look like I'm
Trying to capitalize on something.
calling the
I'm
kids-
just curious because
yeah.
sometimes pop culture will feed into a
Yeah.
real world sort of
Oh, yeah.
scenario. And growing up watching all the Karate Kid movies, and then the next generation of people doing it, and then now this new show Cobra Kai with the old cast,
Very much,
with
yeah.
children, their children and being involved in karate. It was nostalgic for me to watch it, having seen all that as a kid, and now as
Yeah.
an adult watching the show. I thought it was going to be real cheesy, but when I saw it came on Netflix, a friend of mine who I think is real sophisticated watches all these highbrow movies. She was talking about it, and I was like, "What, Jessica? What are you doing? What you're watching that?" And so it made me curious. So I went to see it, and I like watched the first episode, and I was really blown away.
Right.
Like,
Yeah.
okay, the story's pretty good. And so it made me wonder, when I asked you to be on the podcast, like I wonder if that's had any effect at all. Because sometimes
impact,
it can,
yeah.
but you never. I mean, it's so popular right now. Again,
Yeah, I mean, I've had countless conversations with other parents and students that have seen it, but that it's not geared towards the masses, I guess. So
Yeah.
it's kind of hard to capitalize on that. It's like, hey, you come over here to in Martinez martial arts, and you get beat up like Johnny does to his students, and that's not a really good selling point.
Right.
So-
That's another question I was going to have for you. Like, what are the more realistic aspects of the show, and what are the things in something in any not just necessarily that show particular? I don't want to pick on it, but any kind of show that depicts martial arts. Like, what are some of the big stereotypes that they get wrong?
About 99%.
99%.
Okay.
like no joke.
Good to know.
You can watch if you are a real martial artist and you watch these shows, you could see how like just the simple techniques of throwing punches and kicks and stuff like that, and
Yeah.
all the extra stuff that they go on, like balancing on this and that or whatever. It's just like
It's not
yeah,
really a thing.
No, and especially in today's age with everybody, there's a lawyer everywhere, and
Oh,
no.
you've got it. Yeah.
Oh yeah,
Yeah, I
no. They're
understand.
like let me go outside with my kids barefoot in the gravel and have them go run a mile or something like that, and then come up
And-
barefoot, like
Yeah,
cut
no.
up, like yeah.
No,
Yeah.
it's
There
not
seems
gonna
like some
happen.
really unrealistic things in most of those martial art type movies. So I'm always curious, like when I talk to somebody who really does it, like,
Yeah.
Is that really okay?
Yeah.
It's kind of cool. It's kind of cool to like separate yourself and then see that, and you're like, oh, I wish I could do something like that, but absolutely not. I'll be shut down next week.
Yeah,
you know?
right.
So,
As a business owner,
yeah.
and the safety of your students and all that
even,
kind of stuff. Yeah.
Even just from what we used to be able to do 20 years ago, 10 years ago, 5 years ago to now, I mean, there's a lot of stuff we can't do now, and so I couldn't imagine doing all the fake stuff and like, hey, look at this, we're gonna be able to do that. I'm like, no.
What does the structure of a class actually look like for you guys?
For the most part, they're all pretty much the same. Everything is different, if that makes sense. So we'll warm up, we'll go over some basic techniques, we'll practice, put those in real life applications, we'll practice our learned material that we have to get tested on, and then a lot of times we'll do some fun stuff at the end.
Any like real life sparring that you see?
Oh, definitely.
Yeah.
We fight. We have a specialized class where they fight, where everyone has to have gear. Everyone has helmets, face shields, mouthpieces, hand pads, chest protectors, cups, feet pads, everything. Back whenever I first started, we didn't have all that stuff, and it kind of gradually gone up.
Added
and,
it,
and there's
right.
old school people that think that it's just a big waste, and they're like, oh, we used to not do that, and it's like,
well,
yeah,
But
and
like
you broke your foot too
Yeah.
when you did that.
Yeah, so there's a lot of stuff that's changed, and so but also it gives a kid like a what's the word?
Like a safety net, maybe.
Yeah, that's a really good word to put it. Way of putting it, because they will go in, and these little timid kids who it's like, all right, get in there and fight. They wouldn't do anything, but geared out,
they're protected.
They feel that they're wearing armor, and really it's to protect the other person, not necessarily you so much. And you go in there, and they're like, brah, and they're like, great.
Yeah,
good
I would
kick.
imagine that if you get used to fighting with all that stuff on, then if you ever do get an actual altercation and you don't have all that stuff on, your movements would be a lot faster and easier as well.
Yeah,
so,
you're not going to go, hey, bad guy, let me put this hand
Yeah.
on. And then, it's not going to be like that. They're going to be able to actually get in and go quick. So,
are there any kind of regulatory agencies that govern you guys in terms of like?
We're part of a larger organization that kind of self-regulates. There's not anything that oversees us.
Right.
We fell underneath the gym coding for COVID whenever that came out.
Sure.
Yeah.
So we had to shut down with that. But really, other than that, our organization kind of regulates everything that we have to do. And sets standards and
make
stuff
sure that
like
there's no what was that guy in Karate Kid, the bad sensei? What was his name?
Oh, I don't
Do you know who I'm talking about?
Reese that's his real name. I can't think of
I can't think of his name in the show all of a sudden. But yeah, I don't want to have a guy like that teaching your children.
Yeah.
I'm really dating myself. I continually bring up the Karate Kid. Y'all. I'm so sorry.
Yeah, I think that came out after I was born. But, right after I was born. So.
You're not that much younger than me.
I'm just kidding.
So when you trained under Master Olford, you did this for so many years on your own as a student, and then you became a teacher, and now you own your own studio. What was that process like?
Yeah, what was the difference between being a teacher and then
now
transitioning into a business
studio.
owner and it all being yours?
Well, I mean, I got kind of thrown into teaching at a very young age.
Yeah.
I started when I was 9, and they had me leading classes. I think I was 11 or 12.
Wow.
And they were like, here, you go in there and do that. Warm them up. And I'm like, okay. And so I'm just standing there. I'm like, all right, guys, let's do some jumping jacks. And then there was these adult students that are like, I don't have to
Why
listen
is
to
there
you.
a 12-year-old doing this?
I didn't pay for this, and
Right.
then I'd go when we start fighting, and at 12 I was able to kick him in the face, and then I could hold my own and all that. And they're like, okay, I'll do jump jacks.
Okay, fine. We'll listen to what you have to say. Yeah.
You might know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, I taught forever, and when they say when you teach, you learn twice. So it just helped me get better as a martial artist and all that. But as a business owner, it's really completely different.
Yeah.
Because it's the difference between managing and owning. Your eyes are open bigger. And everyone who has ever been a manager thinks they can do it better than the owner. Everyone who's been a manager thinks, hey, I know what I'm doing.
Backseat
blah,
drivers.
Blah. Yep. Exactly. And they are very high up, and then there's really only one person ahead of them, and they're like, yeah, I can do that, and it's completely different.
Yeah, being a boss is a lot different than being the second in command.
Yeah.
Exactly. And there's so much more responsibility, so much more stuff, and that I didn't necessarily think about, because I kind of had a list of numbers of like, I need this many students paying this amount of money, I need this to pay this amount of bills or whatever, and then all of a sudden it was like, nope, taxes. I'm like, oh crap, I need a third more students now,
Insurance
and then everything was going up. And I'm like, oh my gosh, there's some stuff I didn't think about, or I need to spruce up my building. And it's like, okay. And then, well, for example, one of my things, my AC unit went out a couple years ago. It was in the middle of summer. AC unit went out.
Of course.
So I called my landlord, and they were like, oh, that's on you. And I said, no, it's a unit. I need you to get it fixed. And they said, well, no, the only thing your lease says we're only responsible for roof and walls. And I'm on the interior of a mini mall, so I don't have any walls really that they're talking about. So really the only thing that I'm worried or that they cover is the roof. So I said, well, I'm going to take this unit. If I have to buy a new one, I'm going to take a unit that I buy. I'm going to take it with me.
When you leave.
Yeah. And they're like, oh, no, we can't do that. And so we had this huge back and forth about it. And that's just one of the things that if you're a manager, you just call the owner and like, hey, the AC unit's out.
Yeah.
Deal with it. Yeah.
Little simple things like that, toilet going out, little knick-knack things that just pop up.
The nitty-gritty stuff that you don't,
And even though, like, some people, I'm a preparer, like, make all the lists and do all the things and make sure it's, and then you can do all of that and still not consider a certain scenario that'll come up. And then it's not until it comes up that you're like, oh, I did not plan for this contingency, because you've not obviously either had the experience yourself or you just didn't factor that into a business running.
Exactly.
You said, oh, I need all these students to make this much money to pay rent and live and except that you found out, hey, there's taxes and the air conditioning is going to go out and making room for things like that. So has that made you sort of a better at anticipating those things, would you say? Or
I think it definitely made me more prepared at saving it, because growing up, and thinking, whenever I had money, it was always, this is the amount of money I have, I'm going to pay these amount of bills. So I never was a saver or anything like that. Now I make all the lists in the world. Whenever I first started, knowing I was going to buy the school, in my notes section on my phone, I had probably 100 different things of what I needed to do, how I needed to start advertising, where I needed to go, things like that. And then, saving up for, rainy day fund, that really needs to be calculated into people's expenses.
For some people who have like a boutique or a business where you can sell online, sometimes the marketing strategy can be kind of built in because you can have a certain market. When it comes to providing a service, like what you're doing, you're teaching something, you're providing a service. How did you guys go about getting new clientele? I'm guessing that you took some people with you from, your old school.
Yeah.
How did you gain new clientele?
Well,
is it word of mouth?
I was actually teaching in Lufkin and owning the school in Nacogdoches at the same time.
Okay.
And so that would last it for about 4.5 years or so.
Oh, wow.
And then we kind of had a falling out. So I was like, I'm just going to go full speed into this other thing. And it really, during that time, I think it was Ron Swanson. He said, you don't half-ass two things, you whole-ass one thing.
Yeah.
And and so my school was always stagnant. We had, it paid bills and it.
But you weren't putting that focus and energy on it.
No. And there was it wasn't good for either one. And so once I left the Lufkin School and went to my business full time, there was within 2 weeks, I almost doubled my student base.
Wow, that's fast.
One of those days, I had more gross revenue in a day than I had in any single month I had been there.
Oh, wow.
And so just being able to put all my focus into my business, it went great. And then COVID hit. And then we're like, cool, thanks. But I had a fantastic group of core students that paid all the bills, helped me pay all my bills, I should say. And I was able to teach through Zoom. So I was teaching in my living room.
Right.
Had all the classes going at the same time. Because, Nacogdoches was a huge hot spot where it was
for a while there,
Yeah, they couldn't even let the doors open. So, I could be there, but if...
You couldn't have any...
I couldn't have anybody in there with me that wasn't a worker.
Yeah.
And so... I was like, there's no point of me even going in there. So I'm going to just teach it at the house and, go from there.
That was going to be my next question. How have you navigated this pandemic, and especially when you were closed? Are you allowed to have classes now?
Right. We were able to open up midway through May, But as a show of good faith to my students, I was like, we're going to wait till the beginning of June. And, I started advertising. I say, hey, we're going to open up June 1st. It was a Monday, and just start putting it out there. And June 1st opened up. We got all the students that were training through Zoom, plus some more came back. And then I had 15 new students that day.
Wow.
Which was awesome. I think people started getting cabin fever, things like that, to where they just wanted to get out and get these
Spend
kids
that
out
energy.
of the house.
I'm tired
all
of
those
these parents
kids
that had those kids cooped up, not at school.
I had 3 of them the exact same way, So each month afterwards, we're gaining so many new students, which is fantastic. And right now we're at our all-time high students, even after COVID. So
that's great.
Fantastic. Oh, yeah.
So has it been more of a word of mouth situation, or did you have like an advertising campaign that you had?
A little bit of both. Word of mouth is not nearly as prevalent as what it used to be. You know, I think people want to,
because people use it's almost like the social media is your mouth.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So social media.
Yeah. And so it's all social media that I started doing. One of the biggest things I thought was, I always heard people don't go on Facebook to look up sales. They go online to look up sales. And so I was doing a lot of stuff online and not so much Facebook. And, I didn't get anything. I had 0 traffic going to my website. And it was a well-known group here in town that was like, we're going to get you here. We're going to get people to go, whatever. And I'm like, great. Nothing. I was looking at all my...
analytics.
All the analytics, and it was, I would get 10 people a month going to my website, and I was like, this is ridiculous. And so I kind of started doing my own thing and started trying and my own campaigns on Facebook and stuff, and that's what really blew it up. And this last month, I offered if they comment and share this post, they would get a free month in a uniform. It was a contest to win, and then so I gave a winner yesterday actually. And then, pull the curtain back a little bit, I gave everybody who entered 2 free weeks. So they come in, and if any of them sign up, the amount, and
they get to see if they're going to like it.
Yeah, and then of course, who's not going to like me? And so they're going to come in, they're going to love the class, hopefully, and they get signed up. So within, and it's just going to be the cost of one uniform I gave away, I could potentially get dozens of students.
Yeah.
Right.
So,
What is the age range you guys teach?
I start at 4.
Oh, wow.
And I think our oldest one is, I don't think she wants me to tell her age, but I just won't say her name. I think we have some students in their 50s right now.
Okay.
At my at the old school, I had a student in his 70s. He still comes for private lessons here and there, but for the most part, it's a way to stay active and stay young.
Yeah.
So privately, you do private lessons as well.
Oh, yeah.
That's interesting. I never really even thought that was a thing.
Yeah,
mostly
they get beat up behind closed doors. So no, they it's just where they work on whatever they want to work on. I have some people who wanted to work on just get fitness. I have my personal trainer certification, so that we just do some workouts too. And so it's a lot of fun.
So personal trainer on top of teaching martial arts.
Yeah. Before I had the kids, you could tell it a lot better. But,
you got the dad bod rocking right now.
I understand.
That's all of us, really.
Yeah.
Kids will do it to you.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I guess I'll eat your candy.
Blame it all on the kids.
Yeah. I'll finish off your chicken nuggets.
Well, you don't want to waste them.
I don't want to waste this food.
That's my thought process.
That's what you have dogs for.
Oh, yeah.
Right. Don't tell my sister I said that. She would kill me.
Quit blaming everything on your kids. I have no part in this.
You'll understand one day.
In running a business, in teaching also, those are 2 different kind of skill sets. What have you found that's been a struggle that you've had to try to overcome with that sort of flipping back and forth between the 2?
I'm not as much of a hard ass, I believe, as I used to be. Now, granted, all my students would say that is a complete lie. But one thing
You seem pretty relaxed and laid back here, but then this is not the same environment.
But we're not training either.
When I tie the belt
and
kids don't listen the first time, I'm like, what's wrong with you?
Get in dad/teacher mode.
And I get in that. Yeah. Oh, yeah. I've definitely gotten onto kids and where parents are like, remind me not to get on your bad side. It's just like, well, whatever.
I feel like when you're teaching that kind of a discipline, you have to have a certain amount of no nonsense.
I'm actually known as the disciplinarian of martial artists in my area. I have people at least multiple times a month will call and say, hey, are you the one that will yell at the kids. I'm like, oh yeah, that's definitely me. I will stay on these kids. Everyone wants to nurture, everyone wants to coddle, and I mean that's just a parenting style nowadays, and I'm just not that way. I'm not a gentle parent, so I'm not gonna treat your kids differently than I treat my own kids, and so I'm gonna stay on my kids and get onto them, like, what's wrong with you? You know what to do, you know how to act, and then and same thing at work, you know what to do, you know how to act.
I need to send my 3-year-old your way. We're having some issues with that right now.
Well, wait one more year.
One more year. Yep. Yeah, he just turned 3.
Turned 3 this last weekend.
One more year will be fine.
Yeah. Is there been anything about doing this that it's taught you something new that you didn't already know about yourself?
I gotta relax,
Gotta relax.
Because I've always been like super hyper type A, and so everything is always planned out. Everything is structured. Everything is here. It takes me weeks or months to pull the trigger on things because I want to make sure I
think
prepared.
There's not as much action. Exactly. I'm guilty of that.
And so so with kids, I was able to relax a little bit, and then owning my own business, I want it this way, and it's
just not going to work out that way.
It's just not going to do that. So if I want it to be a certain way, I got to make sure I'm prepared for it to not be that way, but still make sure do everything I can to make it that way. Because I really want my business to succeed or fail 100% because of me. I don't want it to be because I lowered the quality of my program, lowered the quality of my clients, or lowered the quality of my teaching to adhere to anybody else. So if I fail, I really want it to be on my own, and if I succeed, would like it to be on my own also.
Yeah. There's a certain sort of authenticity that comes through that even if you are known as the disciplinarian of the martial arts world, I feel like, the product that you will put forth will kind of override any sort of feelings people might have about that particular sort of style. Like, hey, these students are coming out of this and they've learned this and they're more respectful human beings, and they, I feel like that's a good thing. And if I would assume if I'm going to send my kid to a martial arts class, they're not going to be namby-pambied and like pat on the head.
You would think.
You poor kid.
It's
a skill building exercise.
It is literally called a discipline. It's not. Yeah, it's not a workout. You're not going to the gym. This is it. You're learning a discipline.
You're not going to be coddled.
Yeah,
is what I would think.
I have parents all the time that come in and it's like, well, I just want to let you know why Johnny got in trouble. Johnny had a tough day at school and blah, blah, blah. And I just look at them like, so? I was like,
you got to leave that stuff at the door.
He's only here for 45 minutes. Yeah. And he was acting up and disrupting the rest of the kids. So I stayed on him. Why would you feel the need to come talk to me about him? I was like, no, you should be apologizing to all the other kids for having your bad little kid in class, or whatever it is, it just really is. And I don't want, I kind of mentioned on it earlier, but it's not just parents nowadays. I'll have parents from all over come up and do that, but also the greatest parents I have are the ones that come in and say, hey, I appreciate you staying on him. I'm going to get on him at the house. So they'll get in trouble twice, one for disrupting my class and then they get in trouble with me, then they get in trouble at home, and then those are the ones who are going to learn not to do it again.
That reinforcement.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, I think we've lost a certain something in our society that we don't have respect for other people. It's a me all the time. Yeah. And
it's instant gratification.
I think you should
making
have
excuses.
You should have boundaries for yourself, but at the same time, those boundaries shouldn't inflict on others. And so, if my kids are going to be disruptive in a class, you better come tell me, because like you said, they're going to get in trouble at home too. That's not how you act. You be respectful when you're in someone else's space. So I do think martial arts are great for that sort of thing. It teaches self-esteem and confidence, but it also teaches sort of a respectful environment, because they come in and they have to say yes sir, no sir, right. And I don't know, they call you master.
Well, yeah, that's my title, Master Martinez.
Yeah, so you have a certain title that you have to use, and it's a very structured environment, which appeals to me in my sense of type A, like structure, So, and for kids who are very, I would imagine this is good for a lot of children who don't have structure at home or haven't had structure at school. It's a place for them to get out some frustration at the same time.
Right.
Teach them structure.
We don't get the students that are like the kids that come in. They're not the high flying. They're not the most athletic. They're not always, martial arts has changed a lot. Now we still get those kids, but they're, especially in this town, they're all doing a different sport already. We get the kids with ADHD, we get the kids with autism, we get the kids that need
the ones that need the structure,
who need it, the ones who aren't self-disciplined, the ones who need all the extra help, the ones with come from single parents, and whatever it is, they need extra help, and that's what we're here for. Martial arts has changed quite a bit, especially from movies and things like that. And it's not a bad thing. It's just the type of things that we've able to move through. And so we get the shy kids, we get all those other ones. Like I said, that's like what I was. We always push those kids harder because I know that's what they need.
And they're the ones that have the hardest time. If you're already a star baseball player or football player, you don't need that self-confidence building.
Think of the it's short-term discomfort for long-term benefit.
Exactly.
Think of what the life skills that they're learning in that, and how it's gonna help them moving forward.
The biggest thing that we work with is bullying prevention. It's such a big topic nowadays in school and stuff, and the kids that are getting bullied aren't the ones who people think that they're going to be bullied. It's the ones who lack the self-esteem, the ones that are looking down at the ground, the ones who are quiet. Those are the ones who are getting bullied. And so one of the first things we teach is eye contact, and make sure that your head is up, you're looking where you're going, pay attention. That we teach it in a self-defense manner, but it helps out in schools whenever a kid is pushing another kid or whatever, and then all of a sudden they look up and say stop. Like, that's all they need.
Usually a bully, once they're confronted right back, they're the ones that are, this person's not going to
a lot of times they will kind of like make a joke out of it and like, oh, whatever, and then turn around and walk off, but then they won't bother that kid again. They'll look for their next victim. And so one thing you really don't want to do is try to attack a bully, because they'll just fight back, and a lot of times they're big fat kids, and so we don't want that. But we want to make sure that just as we try to squash it right when we can. And that's one thing that I genuinely try to help out with.
What is the best thing about your job? I mean, obviously you've been teaching for a long time, but what do you enjoy the most?
Kicking kids in the face. That's probably number one. No.
And kicking kids in the face and being able to. And
then their parents laughing.
Parents paying me to kick their children in the face.
We're kidding, people, just in case you didn't know. This is a joke.
Come by. We'll see if it's a joke. No, honestly, it's seeing the progression, how a kid can be ODD, Officer Defined Disorder, and then make huge leaps and bounds. A kid with anxiety, a kid with other mental health issues, the kid who comes in with lacking self-esteem, the bad kid with ADHD running around causing trouble at school, getting held back or whatever. Those kids being able to be still for 5 minutes, those kids be able to yes sir, no sir. Those kids come to me and tell me how they show me their report card and their grades go from D to C, and they're like upset. But I'm like, you did
you
better.
went a letter grade. That's good.
That is awesome. And so seeing the progression, and then they don't understand why I get a kid who's making all A's and then gets a B. I'm like, what's wrong with you? It's like, you're able to do this, and I stay on to that kid. And the other kid, well, he got a C. I'm like, he went up, you went down. So things like that. That's what I feel. Personally, it's probably the best thing, most gratifying thing about my job is seeing the progression. A million people can get a black belt, and kids can get their new belts or whatever it is, but not everyone can make personal growth. And seeing that in children of all people, that's great.
It's gotta be encouraging. Like, hey, the next generation may not be so bad.
And having any kind of small part in that. I like that.
Very rewarding.
Adults too. I get adults that come in that are they're a lot harder to deal with, but they come in with the same problems, and there's undiagnosed ADHD or mental health issues and anxiety, or especially right now. Like, I used to do this when I was 19. It's like, well, you're 85, so let's take a couple steps back.
Not a spring chicken anymore.
I had a question and it totally went out of my mind.
Right away.
Oh boy, it's Monday and we just had the time change, and then my brain is not firing on all cylinders. No. Go ahead, Kristin.
I was just gonna say, about your the tools that have been helpful, and
you said you did Facebook campaigns. Was there anything else?
Facebook is really what I kind of gear towards.
Stuck with.
Yeah, because every housewife, which is no offense to housewives, I'm not saying it as a derogatory term, my clientele about 90% of them are moms who bring their kids in.
Yeah.
And so they're always going to be on Facebook, or they're going to look at Facebook through the day, and they see a post of getting your kids having your kids learn discipline and whatever. They're going, I've got to call that guy, you know? And so that's really the main thing I've been doing. You can, if you ever go to my Facebook page, you could look down and kind of see some of the past programs that we've tried to implement and stuff. And some things work, some things haven't.
Rose is telling us about it. I'm sorry, guys. I may have to step out for a minute.
That's fine. Go ahead.
See if I can't take care of that for a second.
She is an unhappy camper at the moment. But babies, it's hard on them for all these changes.
Those teeth are coming in too.
Yeah. Oh, that's fun.
Yeah.
I do remember what I was going to ask you.
Okay.
So you've been teaching for a really long time. Do you have students that come back after a time that you've had that are like close friends now and
yes,
really
definitely.
a part of your life?
I have kids come in, I have students that I'll go and have a drink with nowadays and things like that. I had the craziest one. I had a student who I taught what we call tiny tigers. They're 4, 5, and 6-year-olds. I taught him as a tiny tiger, and he saw me and said, "Hey, Mr. Martinez, won't you meet my kid?" And I'm like, "You're what?" And then he said, "This is my kid." And I said, "All right, cool." And it made me feel super old, you know.
Yeah.
And that the kid that I taught at that age is still, or had a kid and everything, and I was like, wow, that's crazy.
Yeah,
but
there were kids I used to babysit for that now have children of their own, and I'm just like, no, that's not okay.
Yeah, it's not. Stop it.
When did that happen?
But I have some of the most successful students too. I can't even tell you how many valedictorian students I've had. I can't tell you how many students. I have one student who's working in government in Austin right now. I believe under Travis Clardy, I believe is the name.
Okay.
So we have students all over the place that have worked. They're all over the world now, just super successbeen That's
your success. Is these successful people that you have taught and have gone out into the world and use those skills to build a life.
I've been mentioned in valedictorian speeches. I've gotten up during high school graduations where they've given me presents. I mean, it's humbling because I don't expect that, but I go into support and watch that, and all of a sudden I hear, Mr. Martinez, blah blah blah. Without him yelling at me, I probably wouldn't be here. Paraphrasing, just like, oh, that's cool. And then eyes start looking at me. I'm just like, So.
Yeah. I had that kind of influence on someone. I mean,
weird.
It really is a very humbling experience to have that kind of influence over kids. I used to teach art appreciation for our homeschool co-op, and there were kids that I've run into now as adults, and they were just like, I remember I saw this thing on a TV show, and we had covered that artist, and I remembered all about that. And it's really cool because you're like, oh yeah, I'd forgotten all about that.
Yeah, like, oh, they are listening.
It makes an impact on the person you're talking to, but you may forget about it, years later, and but something you say to these kids will stick with them for the rest of their lives. Yep. So that's a lot of power you hold.
Yeah.
And it's a big responsibility, and I think it's really cool. If you had somebody come to you and ask, hey, I want to start my own business, what advice would you give them that either you wish you had been given or that you did receive that really helped you out?
The biggest piece of advice that I've gotten that meant the most to me, I don't know if this is going to answer your question, was, and this was from a minister. So, you can take it as religious, or you can take it spiritual, you can take it whatever.
Sure.
Karma. He said, sometimes God will rock the boat for you to get off. So meaning not every trial and tribulation that you go through is there to test you, to show how strong you are. Sometimes it's life literally slapping you in the face and say, look, dummy, this is not the route you're supposed to take.
Yeah.
So you need to look at a different route, a different way to go.
Yeah.
And so I found that out probably a little bit too late, I feel. Not that it's going to hinder me in the future, but like I wish I
had learned that lesson in life earlier.
I wish I took that advice earlier, and I heard it years, and every time he saw me, he would say it, and we'd go out, we'd go out to dinner and eat and whatever, and he'd always say it, and I said, okay, I got you, and then I would always be like, yeah, I can handle it, and then but it really just takes off. Like, you have your game plan, know what you want, but be prepared for it not to go that way, because it will not go the direction you think.
Right.
And my school hadn't gone in the direction I originally thought, but it's better now. if that makes sense.
I think sometimes when it doesn't go the way you plan, you're actually better off for it.
Oh, I can
in a
definitely
way.
see that.
Because, you can plan and you can plan, but sometimes, your planning can actually hinder your growth.
Right. That has happened to me, because I was like, look, I want to have this thing here, that, whatever. And then, of course, things don't go that way. Then I'm upset, and that carries over into my business, and that carries over into my teaching, that carries over to whatever, my personal life. And because I was like, no, I wanted it this way, and it's just
it rarely works out that way.
Very rarely.
So,
very rarely.
I mean, there were so many things I planned for that didn't go the way that they were written down on paper as, and so you can either let that bum you out, or you can take it as a sign, I need to get off this boat and get on another one and move along. And I feel like, well, that just fits right in line with your teaching style and philosophy. It sounds like just well, this is the path I'm supposed to be on now.
Yep. Here I am. I got to be able to roll the punches.
Right. What does the future look like for you guys?
Hopefully the sky. We want to. I have a goal of a certain amount of students by the end of this month, and then I have a new goal for in the next month, and then we're right on track. I don't know how COVID's going to affect Christmas time, and December is usually not our best month.
Right, because people are busy with
exactly.
other things.
They want to. I want to take this month off so I can buy a Christmas present, and you can't fault them.
Yeah, sure.
I get that. So I try to get them to stay, and we work things out as much as we can. And so January and September are two best months.
People starting the new year with a new resolution or something, or starting the school year, they're starting a new.
And we usually do a Christmas, like a Christmas present, what's the word?
Gift exchange?
No. Oh gosh, I'm flustered.
Words are hard today.
I'm telling you, you're right about Monday. Like a promotion, I guess. So
okay.
I'll give a wrapped box and put a uniform in, and it'll say, congratulations, somebody gifted you 1 month of free karate lessons or whatever it is.
That's
so
cool.
They buy the month, and then they get a uniform. They can give it to a kid or student or whatever. And so that kind of goes big. January we get a lot of adults. September we get all the kids. And so we're hoping to hit, like I said, we have certain numbers that I want to hit, and we're right on track to do that, because actually I'm about 5 students away from my original goal for the entire year.
That's nice.
Yeah, and then I was like, well, I'm gonna up it, so we went up 25 to try to get to our
always
new goal.
Keep pushing.
Exactly. Yeah. And so I set a new goal before we even hit that other one. So
Hey,
I was like,
hey,
you gotta.
Some people that works for them, that they need, like, okay, we're almost there, let's push it up.
Yeah,
let's keep pushing it.
One of my former students, he and I were talking. He said, because I was talking about buying out a building and building out and doing this, that. He said, well, how much do you need? I said, probably about 200 to get everything I want, the land, building, all this stuff. He said, well, go get a loan for 400. I said, for what? He said, well, the fact that you risking your life, your kids, and all this stuff on 400 when you only need 200, he said, you're going to make you work harder. Yeah. And I said, well, I can see that, but
it's like like the carrot dangling in front of you. You know, you're going to try to get to that point.
Yeah, but I don't think I'd put my kids in jeopardy
like
that.
That's a little bit more risky.
Yeah, so
how many teachers do you guys have for your school?
It's just me.
It's just you.
It's just me. I teach all the classes. I have a guy who actually just last week came back from his job, so he's helping out whenever he can. And but it's really just me. I had a student that was helping me. She's 18 and just went to college in Tyler. So if she wouldn't have left, she would have. She was thinking Tyler and SFA, and I was like,
"You got to do what
go Tyler. Get away from the house, whatever.
Got to do what
stay
you
got to do. But she left to Tyler, and she's doing great. And so. It's up to me to, I got to build up students, and so I have to build up people that want to teach and, work.
So do you eventually want to add on some teachers besides
eventually.
yourself? I mean,
be able to give me a day off, every now and then.
Yeah.
So.
Do you guys have classes Monday through Saturday, or how does that work?
It's Monday through Thursday. Whenever I made my schedule, I was like, look, I don't want to ever miss a kid's football game, baseball game, soccer game, cheerleading, whatever my kids wanted to go do. I want to watch them on Saturday, and so I was like, I'm not gonna work myself, because whenever I was working for in Lufkin, like I worked every day except Sunday, and then Sunday I was like, I don't want to do anything,
right?
And so
Burn
I really
out.
did exactly. You work when you want, and people will come to you. You know? So
you set those hours, and sometimes you almost seem more attractive when you have limited time. For whatever reason, people are like, "Ooh, well, he's only available these days. I'm gonna have to sign up, or I'm gonna miss out." So that's great.
I could definitely see that.
Any final thoughts or things you wanted to say to people who don't have any familiarity with martial arts that you would?
Come see me, 130 North University, number 102. Martial arts gets a bad stigma about all we do is fight, and I mean, we were able to teach from February to literally 3 weeks ago, and we didn't throw a single punch at each other. We didn't hit each other. We didn't do anything like that. And even now, we're still, I have some self-imposed regulations of we're not going to hit each other. We're not going to touch each other. We're doing self-defense away from people. Eventually, we're going to get it to where the parents are going to come in, but we're building stair-stepping. So I don't want to say once COVID's over, I don't know if that's the right terminology, but whenever we're able to,
when things calm down a little bit more,
whenever we're able to loosen up a little bit, we'll be able to go in. But I mean, we just started sparring, like I said, about 3 weeks ago, and even then, it's just, that's probably the biggest misconception is all we do is fight. All we're going to do is learn to beat each other up, and it's just, that's not it. Our goal's life skills. To learn that.
Well, that's good. Well, you said your address. Why don't you tell everybody where they can find you online and on social media?
We're on just Facebook, Martinez Martial Arts. You can call, text 936-205-1908, and we'll get back to you. We'd love to have you come by, visit. Just first class is always free. And so,
awesome.
And you always get free uniform with enrollment. So we'd love to have you come in and try it out. And as long as you're 4 years old and up, we'd love to have you.
Okay. Well, it's a good life discipline and teaches all kinds of skills that you wouldn't actually necessarily think, and I think it's a good thing people should be out doing. So thanks, TJ, for coming and telling your story.
Appreciate it. Thank you so much.
On this crazy Monday. Well, we thank everybody for listening, and we hope you guys enjoyed today's story. If you want to be on the podcast, you should hit us up on our website at www.PaynePoints.com or any of our social media at PaynePoints. If you're listening on any of the podcast platforms, please like and subscribe and follow, because that's really helpful to us. And leave a comment and let us know what you think. And you should, that way you don't ever miss an episode if you're subscribed. So definitely do that. And we'll, see you guys next time. Thanks so much, everybody, for being here. And that'll wrap it up.
Have a great week.
Thanks, guys.